Hi, this is Shanna Rose, and you're watching Hoops Country on the Hoops from the Hills channel. Today we're going to talk about the WVU men's basketball team and their performance at Pitt on Friday. The Mountaineers got destroyed by the Panthers, 86-62 at the Pitt on Friday. Everybody knows, Pitt, WVU, huge rivalry. Bragging rights are always up for grabs, no matter which team is good or which team is bad. These two teams, their fan bases hate each other. They hate each other. It's always a gritty game. There's always a lot on the line. And, this is a new coaching staff, completely new, and none of them are familiar with West Virginia at all. New players. You have two players that returned. Neither of those players, Ifridi Neve has redshirted, and Aiden Tagaloa Nelson is with the football team. So, neither of those players were at this game to play. You always wonder, when you have a new team, new coach, do they really, understand that rivalry and what it means? But I kind of felt like, Coach DeVries and his staff and the players understood that. This is a huge deal to the state of West Virginia and to Pitt. These two teams hate each other. These two fan bases hate each other. It seemed like coming in that they really understood that and that they were excited for this game. However, Pitt just dominated West Virginia. That's no other way to say it but that. The Panthers were prepared. The Panthers were definitely the better team. This is a good Pitt basketball team. I think that's something that fans, I've seen a lot of negativity about this game, and I think fans fail to realize that this is a good Pitt basketball team. They're not quite as bad as they tend to be in the past. They're very talented. They have a lot of talent on this team. They have good shooters, and basically what happened was Pitt came out and shots were just falling. They could not miss. They were lights out in the first half. Pitt shot 52% from the field, and they were 40% from the 3-point line. They made 6 of 15 from beyond the arc. And then the other end of the spectrum, West Virginia couldn't buy a basket. They made 10 of 30 from the field for 33% shooting. And they were just 2 of 13 for 15% from 3-point range. And then overall in the game, West Virginia only shot 38.7% the entire game. They made 24 of 62 from the field, and they shot 20% from 3. They made just 6 of 29. And then free throws, they failed to make their free throws. And that was also costly, where Pitt made theirs. Basically, Pitt they were the better team this night. They were the better team, I think, in general. Damon Dunn, he owned West Virginia. He had 23 points. He was 5 of 7 shooting from the field and 4 of 7 from 3. And I think, those were just costly factors. I see a lot of panic in fans. I know it's frustrating. Last season was frustrating. It was frustrating for me. I've grown up in West Virginia. I went to school at WVU. I have covered WVU sports for years. And so it's definitely frustrating when you come off that 9-win season. There was a lot of hope before everything happened last year with that team, and it was disappointing. And then you have the football team who has failed to perform over, the last few years. So I think there's a lot of frustration in Mountaineer fans, and they expected just the Darren DeVries era to come out and just be, spectacular. And here's the thing, it's a new coaching staff, it's a new team, and I don't want to hang everything so high on this one game. I think there's a lot that West Virginia needs to improve on, and I think they will get there. But the silver lining is, this team is going to continue to get better. They're going to continue to play together. I don't think they will shoot this poorly every single game. I do think that if they don't fix some things, it is going to hurt them, especially when they get into Big 12 play, especially when they go to this tournament in a week or two in the Bahamas. So there's a lot of things to fix, but I think they will fix it. I think they will right the ship. I think that some people, some West Virginia fans, I think are overreacting. And I get it. Trust me, I get it. I 110% get it. It's frustrating. You don't ever want to lose. You don't want to lose the Pitt. It always stings. But we'll take a look. We'll break down the game a little bit. The biggest thing in the game was poor shooting. Like I said, West Virginia couldn't buy a shot. They shot very poorly in the first half. Pitt went on a 20-8 run at one point, and Damon Dunn, he had 2 big threes during that run, and that run really killed West Virginia. It just took them out of the game. And then when you also look at it, West Virginia just couldn't contain Dunn, and that was a huge factor. Last year, Hinton had a big game in Morgantown, and this year it just kind of changed to a different player. Not only could West Virginia not contain him, he was able to contain his man. Dunn did a great job at containing, control, Tucker DeVries. Tucker was not at all, existent on the offensive spectrum. He made just 2 of 10 of his shots from the field, and he only had a total of 6 points. So defensively, big shout out to Dunn. He did a great job with guarding DeVries and, keeping him from scoring. But West Virginia, nobody really stepped up. Here's the thing. Guys are going to know they're going to have a target on Tucker DeVries' head. Hey, we got to control him. We got to double team him. So somebody has to step up. And that's the thing. You can't depend just on Javon Small and Tucker DeVries to be the scoring for this team. Somebody else has to step up and be like, okay, well, if we're going to shut down Tucker this night, I'm going to step up and I'm going to score some points. And we've seen this in the first 2-3 games of the season. We've seen them spread out the scoring. We've seen guys, they had multiple players in double digits. The shots weren't falling on Friday night. I don't think this team's going to be this bad throughout the whole entire season on shooting. But just somebody else has to step up. You can't depend on one person. Another area where West Virginia struggled, they struggled defensively. I think in the first couple games of the season, we saw that West Virginia defense they were tough. They were, they weren't afraid. But just against Pitt, they could not do what they wanted to do. They're going to have to improve on this because they're going to rely a lot on the defense this season. It's easier for a new team to kind of mesh defensively than it is to kind of figure out offensively. And this team is going to rely on defense. They can't just expect to go out there and, score 80, 90 points every game. It's not going to happen. And so I'm not really sure what happened. I know they left a lot of shooters open, especially on the perimeter. It seemed like guys maybe were double teaming somebody and then they were leaving another guy wide open to make threes, and Pitt was draining those threes. Not everybody is going to shoot as well as Pitt did. And it just seemed like Pitt shot really well on the night that West Virginia shot really poorly, and West Virginia made mistakes and Pitt made West Virginia pay. But when you get into Big 12 play, Houston, Kansas, Baylor, these teams are going to make 3-point shots. So they can't make those same mistakes once you get into in-conference play. They just weren't aggressive. West Virginia was not at all aggressive in the paint. Here's the thing, if you're not having success from the outside, you're going to have to go down low. And, I think in the first half, West Virginia and Pitt both were, tied 16 points each in the paint. But, they're going to have to go down, drive to the basket, try and get some points that way. And they did not do that. Rebounding. I've talked on this after, I want to say, all 3, the exhibition game and the first 2 games of the season. West Virginia needs to improve rebounding. Sincere Harris was West Virginia's leading rebounder with 5 rebounds, and Toby Akani, 6 rebounds, sorry. Toby Akani had 5 rebounds. Nobody else had, a large amount of rebounds. There was not, anybody that had double digits in rebounding. And West Virginia needs to improve on that. They were out-rebounded by Pitt, 45 to 36, I believe. West Virginia is ranked 263rd in the nation in rebounding. That's out of 300 and some teams. That's not a good statistic. That's going to have to improve. I mean, they've been out-rebounded by Robert Morris. They've been out-rebounded by these teams. And that's going to, they're going to have to get their own rebounds. They're going to have to figure something out. The last game, it kind of seemed like they didn't have necessarily one dominant rebounder, but they were spreading it out. But they're not getting rebounds, and they have to improve in that area. Another thing, make your free throws. We've seen this last year. We've seen this over the years. If you struggle from the free throw line, that can be a difference in a game. West Virginia, who was horrible. I mean, they were horrible. Like, I've just seen some terrible free throw shots this season from this team. And that's something that you can't do. Those are free points. You got to take advantage of those free points, especially in big games, like especially in close games. I know it doesn't really necessarily matter when you're not, when you're not scoring, and you're getting blown out, but you have to make those free throws. And, the Mountaineers just are not doing that, consistently every single night. Another thing, as far as, they didn't really force a lot of turnovers. They only forced 11 turnovers and 6 steals. They only committed 8 turnovers, which was good. It was a positive thing. In a game like that, you would have expected West Virginia to turn the ball over more than they did. But like I said, just defensively, they weren't gelled together as a team. They were not at all. They weren't good. That's no other way to say it. Offensively, Jonathan Powell, he led the Mountaineers with 16 points. He's a freshman. I've commented on this through all of the games this season. I'm really impressed with Powell. Again, I think he's going to continue to get better. He's a bright spot. It's nice to see that, when Tucker isn't making baskets or somebody else isn't making baskets, it's nice to see a freshman go out there and be like, hey, I got this. It just wasn't enough. I really do think Jonathan Powell is going to be special. I think he's going to be fun to watch over the next few years with the Mountaineers, especially as the season progresses. I am really happy with him and his performance in general. He's only going to continue to get better. But yeah, I think there's a lot of work to do here. Like I said, I wouldn't, it's hard. It really is. It's hard. It's frustrating. That's a game you want to win. West Virginia's got plenty of other opportunities to bounce back. They have a chance on Wednesday, to get things right. And I'm sure they will. I'm sure they're going to work hard to practice, from now until Wednesday. I would not write this team off. 100% don't think this one game is going to make or break the season. I don't think this one game is going to be what you're going to see game in and game out from this team. I truly believe that, and I can't explain it. I'm not in these players' minds or bodies. I don't know what it is. If it was like nerves, if they were, just didn't really, they just, for whatever reason, everybody on the team just failed to shoot that night. And you've seen that in the past. It's not just with this team, with every team. We've seen those teams, the Sweet 16 runs where, we've had nights where they shot 30%. It's not uncommon. It's going to happen in basketball. Basketball is a game of runs. I'm not worried. I really am not worried. I think that, we took the first 2 games of the season, what we saw, and we took a lot of positive, and we overlooked, expectation, like realistic expectations. Some people, I think, some people were just so ready for last year to be in the rearview mirror, and to forget about it, that they wanted to write this team off as as a top tier team, and they're not there. I do believe this team will get there. I do believe this team is going to get better. I do think when they get into Big 12 play, they will win some games, but I think there's a lot of room to grow. They haven't played a lot together. They haven't, there's a lot of young pieces on this team. You do have some veteran guys, but you also do have some youngsters, and you have these youngsters like Powell, Tenor, Harris, Hansberry, and these guys are getting significant playing time. These are key players for you. So they're going to continue to get better. They're going to continue to improve. And I think as the guys mesh together, they're going to get better. I think they'll fix the defensive things that they need to work on. I think the shots will fall. In the first couple games, we've seen good shooters. I've seen them, and I've made comments about how they weren't taking bad shots. Just for whatever reason, in this game, the cards fell how the cards fell. I think it's too early to kind of throw ourselves off a cliff, and, want a new coach, or whatever, but I do think fans need to be a little bit patient. And I do think, this team is going to get better. I do think, I think Darren DeVries is going to be a great coach. I think this is a great coaching staff. And I think over the next few years, you're really going to see the team solidify themselves in the Big 12 and get back to where the program once was, and be a team that contends to win the Big 12, and makes it to the Big 12 championship in the NCAA tournament. I do think those things are going to happen. I'm not saying it's going to happen this year. I still think this team is a question mark. I think there's a lot of questions on this team, and I think we're going to see how they do together. We're going to see how well they continue to grow, and if they can get to that point. I kind of think those are a little bit of unrealistic expectations to sit there and be like, well, this is going to be an NCAA tournament team. This is going to win a Big 12. I don't think those are going to happen right off the bat with Coach DeVries. And I don't think, I think this team could be a pleasant surprise and maybe can figure it out and get to that point. But I don't want to say like for certain that it's going to happen. I do think this team will win more than 9 wins. And I do think you will see a lot of good things as, the games unfold and the future, plays out. So I wouldn't like jump off a bridge yet. But, there's going to be growing pains, and unfortunately it came with lots to our rival. And I think that's hard because, they beat us in football this year. They whooped us last year in basketball. And I think that makes it hard to stomach because everybody wants to beat Pitt. Nobody wants to lose the Pitt. The fans will, the coaches, Coach, Cabell, he made some comments, prior to the game, and I think it eats at you, and you want that win. You want that win so much more when they talk negatively, when their fans talk negatively. It fires you up inside. And unfortunately, it wasn't West Virginia's night. They got to fix the things, and I think they will. I think they're going to go back to the drawing board, and they're going to be like, this is what we did. We did not make these shots. This is how we can improve. I think they're going to look and be like, we left shooters open. We need to go back and do this. And it's hard. It's not impossible when you fall behind to come back, but it is hard when you fall that far behind to come back from that. And, it wasn't West Virginia's night. I just think that it's gonna get better. It's gonna be okay. This team has a lot of bright spots on it. And I think it's too soon to kind of go off the deep end. But that's my opinion. If you guys disagree, please feel free, let me know. Let me know your opinions on things. If you do agree with me, awesome. Let me know that too. If you guys have any questions about things, I'll try and answer them. In the meantime, West Virginia's back in action on Wednesday. They play Iona, who is 1-3, at home at the Coliseum, 7 p.m. tip-off time. And you guys can watch that on ESPN Plus if you are unable to make it. But I will catch you guys later, and we'll talk about hopefully a win after that game. For now, have a great week.